Right now, we look back years since the Metro Atlanta spa shootings with a noted defense attorney as the case in the courtroom resumes. Also, you've had that checking account for close to 2 decades. Is it time now to change banks or credit unions? We'll look at that. And we'll look at some processed foods which may not be as bad for your health as first thought. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to provide their knowledge and give us their take on today's top stories. And today, we're going to start with the return to the courtroom in the case of the 2021 Atlanta spa shootings. Next Sunday marks 4 years since that tragedy unfolded in our area. Here's what we know. Robert Aaron Long is accused of killing 8 people at 3 different spas in Fulton and Cherokee counties. He pleaded guilty in the Cherokee County murders back in 2021, but has yet to go to trial in Fulton County, where District Attorney Fonnie Willis is seeking the death penalty for the first time in her career. Now, despite arguments from Long's defense, a judge ruled yesterday that the evidence and the confession from the Cherokee County case can be used in his Fulton County case. Here now to examine the case and a look back is former Fulton County prosecutor Darrell Cohen. He is now a criminal defense attorney. Welcome to The Take, Darrell.
Good morning. I'm taking it off to say hello to you.
Hey, well,
nice to see you.
It's good to see you as well. Let's start out with yesterday's ruling, right? Break it down for us and tell us how significant this is moving forward.
It's both significant and insignificant. Now, how can I say that? Because that's a political answer. The reality is he's already pled guilty in Cherokee County. He has life in prison. He's never getting out. So now we move to Fulton County, and the prosecutors say that what he did in Cherokee was step number 1, and here we go, and here we are in Fulton County, and he committed several other heinous murders. So is it significant? I don't think a jury is going to make a difference. In their mind, it's not going to really make a difference, but it could. The right prosecutor in the courtroom, one of Fonnie's top people, would hammer on the fact that this wasn't something that just happened. It happened, and he moved. He has a trail of terror. And because he has that trail of terror, and he murdered several other people in cold blood, it smells like a hate crime. That doesn't matter because it's a murder crime. And murder is going to either get him, once again, another life sentence, or if Fonnie is successful, the death penalty.
It seems complex, right, to the average person, or at least for me, it seems a little bit complex. You're in one county, then you have another county, whole different trial going on. How tough is this going to be to unravel?
I don't think it's going to be difficult at all, Tesney. What happens in every case, it starts simple. He committed several murders. It ends simple, where he convicted by the jury in Fulton County of several murders, pled guilty in Cherokee County. And so that's the simple part. In the middle is where it always gets complicated and gets to be, well, should I or should I not? But if you have the right prosecutor, regardless of whether they find him guilty of murders or they give him the death penalty after finding him guilty of the murders, the right prosecutor can slam that this guy was doing this out of pure, unadulterated hate. Nothing more, nothing less.
So in the first trial, he gets life, right? Now, the second trial, they're seeking the death penalty. How tough will it be to convince the jurors to go this route?
Hard to say. Fulton County is notorious for not wanting to give the death penalty. Go back to the courthouse murders. Brian Nichols should have, in my view, been given the death penalty. He was not. That was as heinous as it gets. It's up close and personal. So this may be a little more difficult, and jurors tend not to want to be in that jury room any more than they have to. So if they take an initial vote or two and it seems half or part, third want him put to death, and the others say, this is ridiculous, let him stay in prison for the rest of his life, I think it's less likely that he's going to be given the death penalty.
4 years as a DA, and Fonnie Willis, this is her first death penalty case that she's seeking. Is that unusual after 4 years?
You have to pick and choose the cases that you go after. It's unusual in that it hasn't happened before, but on the other hand, in Fani and her top assistant's view, it may be this is the first case that's come to them that they believe is worthy of the death penalty. That is, he is the most despicable human being in the world based on what he did in Fulton County.
All right, and so what's next for us? Do they still have to set a trial date? What's next going forward?
We're going to have motion after motion after motion because his lawyers have to do one thing and one thing only, and that is complicate it as much as they can to hopefully make the DA's office say, you know what, let's get rid of this case, let's let him plead guilty and move on. So every conceivable motion that they can that will delay it is what's going to happen in my view. And it's what's happened so far, by the way.
Gotcha. All right, Darrell Cohen, criminal defense attorney. Really appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. In other headlines this Tuesday, Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens is expected to launch his re-election campaign today. He is planning a news conference during the morning and will kick off a rally tonight at the Monday Night Brewing Garage in the West End. Mayor Dickens is up for election this November. So far, no one has announced plans to run against him. Closing arguments are expected to get underway today in the 1990 double murder in DeKalb County. Kenneth Perry testified that John and Pamela Sumter and another man actually drugged and sexually assaulted him inside of a Stone Mountain apartment complex. He says when they left, all three were still alive. Police arrested Perry after a DNA match registered a hit last year. A plan for a redesign of the 100 MARTA bus routes is on the table. There is a public information hearing tonight in Lithonia on the MARTA's Next Gen bus network. Another public hearings will be planned across the metro area through the week. All right, let's take a look at our 7-day outlook for today. And today is going to be a nice day, a very nice day. As a matter of fact, we're in that sweet spot, folks, where you'll see temperatures between 71, 73 degrees. Oof. Nice. Plenty of sunshine around. We'll do even better tomorrow if you like it warmer. 75 degrees will be the high temperature on Wednesday. Looking at mostly sunny skies. Clouds will increase on Thursday, so you got to get out today or tomorrow because we got some rain coming our way on Thursday. Right now it's a 40% chance. Looks like it's going to be late afternoon. Going into the evening is when we can expect that rain to push in. Because of the cloud cover and the rain, temperatures will be a little bit lower, right around 69 degrees. We rebound nicely on Friday at 73 under partly sunny skies. And then a front is going to come through over the weekend. Now we're watching this closely because the ingredients could be coming together where we could see some strong severe thunderstorms in the area. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has been watching this closely and now has bumped us up to a 30% chance probability for those severe thunderstorms. So it's something that I have to watch. We'll keep you updated. It's still far out, of course, and we'll keep you updated and let you know what you can expect in your neighborhood. We'll keep you safe right here, folks. You're watching 11Alive Plus. This is The Take. We're back right after this. You know the sound of that bell. Wall Street is grappling with President Trump's chaotic trade actions against allies and adversaries. Yesterday was the worst day for the U.S. market so far this year. With more Trump tariffs set to go into effect tomorrow and the government funding deadline looming Friday, it could be another rough day. But the White House insists that the pain is going to be all worth it. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who's been covering politics for years now. And Alice, this sounds like the president is trying to prescribe some tough medicine for the nation's economy. Give us your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, he really believes and has said repeatedly that long term, this sweeping tariff plan that he's put into place and really risking these trade wars with a number of top trading partners, that it's going to pay off because he believes that that kind of investment here in the U.S. is going to kind of increase because people are not going to want to pay the tariffs. And he believes that companies are going to be more likely to base their factories here. He's talked a lot about how many U.S. jobs have been lost over the years to factories that have moved overseas. And so he is betting on that playing out that way. You know, we already have a number that have gone into place. Some of them have been repealed, at least short term. But by next month, he's looking at doing these reciprocal tariffs that are going to be on trading partners all over the globe. And you're not going to really be able to escape the effects at this point. He has acknowledged that that's going to mean some pressure on prices moving up in the short term, but he really believes that long term it's going to shift some of the dynamics that have been going in the other direction for a long time in terms of American-based manufacturing, American-based jobs.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about this possible shutdown. We got a midnight deadline here. Sounds like Speaker Mike Johnson is eyeing a vote today in the House. What's the likelihood that we can avoid this shutdown?
Yeah, the midnight deadline on Friday. So we're looking ahead to the end of this week for when this has to be figured out, that there needs to be government funding extended. Otherwise, it runs out at midnight and we go into a shutdown. Last night, this short-term funding bill that House Republicans put together made it out of committee. It cleared that first hurdle, and then around 4 o'clock this afternoon is when we're expecting the full House to vote on that. If it makes it through the full House, and remember, there's just such narrow margins of Republican control in the House, but if that hurdle is cleared, the bigger challenge is going to be in the Senate. That's where 7 Democrats are going to need to line up and agree to get on board. And what we've heard from them is a lot of frustration that they were not involved in the process at all to come up with this short-term funding bill that's on the table right now. We've also heard things like they want to see guarantees that things like Medicaid are not going to be cut into when it comes time to pay for President Trump's priorities in a larger spending bill to come, and they're trying to come up with some means to protest against these sweeping changes that the Trump administration has been putting into place, including changing funding that Congress had already approved. They want guarantees that if they sign on to this spending bill, that it's actually going to be spent the way that they're being told it will be. So I think, it's a little bit of a standstill right now, and it needs to shake out over the course of the week to see which way this is really going to go, if we wind up in maybe a short-term shutdown or not.
All right, we'll wait and see. All right, shifting back to the tariffs, China is striking back now. What's all involved here?
Yeah, so China has put in place retaliatory tariffs. They started yesterday on a number of U.S. agricultural products, 15% tariffs on things that include cotton, corn, a lot of the big products that, American farms produce and export, and then tariffs as well on soybeans, a lot of the big things that, farmers count on having an export market for their product that they raise here. And we've heard concern from some farmers, the head of the Soybean Association, saying that if this continues, it's going to drive down prices, and that could get really perilous for farmers if it extends for a long term.
All right, thanks a lot, Alice Barr. Appreciate your insight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. All right, is it okay to eat processed foods? Well, the latest evidence suggests that while certain processed foods can be harmful, others may be okay. All right, here now to sink our teeth into this topic is Tricia Calvo, a deputy content editor for Consumer Reports. And so, good morning to you, Tricia.
Good morning.
This is a good topic right here, and I can't wait for you to explain this to us. Let's start off with defining what it means when we talk about processed meat or processed foods.
Well, processed foods really run the gamut. So not everything in a box, bag, or container or tub is the kind of processed food that you need to be concerned about. There are varying degrees of processing, and one really great way to think about it is if you look at the ingredients list, it's how many of those ingredients in that food are actually something that could be in your own kitchen.
Now, typically you hear that processed food may lead to certain cancers, things like that. Is that what made you guys at Consumer Reports want to examine this?
Yes, there's just been a lot of research on processed foods recently. It's really an evolving area of nutrition research. And also 60% of the foods in the grocery store are what are considered ultra processed. And that means that they do have a lot of ingredients that you might not recognize from reading the label. But the recent research is sort of like trying to tease out the differences between those kinds of foods in that ultra processed group. For example, there's a big difference between a flavored yogurt that has some fruit, some milk, some cultures, and a little bit of sugar, and one that has a lot of artificial colorings and flavorings and milk and a lot of added sugar or artificial sweeteners in place of the sugar.
So the ones that you were calling ultra processed, that's the ones we ought to stay away from.
Yes, but even within that ultra processed group, there are some that are better for you than others.
All right, give us some examples. We need to know which ones we need to avoid and which ones we can actually eat.
So the best thing to do is to think about what nutrition is that food providing, right? Okay. So technically packaged bread is an ultra-processed food. It can have a lot of ingredients like dough conditioners and preservatives and things along those lines. But that whole wheat bread is also going to provide you with some fiber. So the thing to do is to take a look at the labels among the different options and pick the one that has the fewest additional ingredients.
And so, with prices going up, it becomes a little bit harder and harder to try to shop healthy, of course. The processed foods tend to be a little bit cheaper. What do you say to people that have to go to the grocery store and make these tough decisions on buying these foods?
Well, I do think that, budget is a concern. I think, though, that a lot of unprocessed foods like beans and whole grains, even if they're canned, which adds the processing, tuna, frozen fruits and vegetables without any kind of sauce or sugar in them, all of those are technically processed foods, but they are healthy and they are relatively inexpensive. So those are the kinds of foods that you might want to focus in on. And of course, fresh fruit and vegetables, lower priced chicken, other lean meats, those are always unprocessed and part of a healthy diet.
They always say in moderation, right? So if you have to eat some of these ultra processed foods, maybe just eat a little bit. Would you say that's okay?
Absolutely. The research shows that even if you cut back on the ultra processed foods in your diet by, say, 10%, it really can make a difference to your health.
All right, sounds good. Tricia, really appreciate that report, and we'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Great. Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, tonight at 11, if you recently filed your taxes and discover you owe Uncle Sam maybe a few $1,000s, first of all, take a breath, okay? You have options, and you have a few weeks before you have to make that plan to pay on April 15th. Consumer Reports is going to break down what to do if you have a big IOU. Again, that's going to be tonight right here at 11 o'clock on 11 Live Plus. We got plenty more show for you coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take. All right, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you switched your bank or your credit union? Chances are it's been a long time, especially if you're like me. Data out now from Bankrate shows customers, on average, hang on to their checking accounts from a financial institution for about 19 years, a savings account for 17 years. When people were asked why they do this, 43% said it's out of convenience. Well, convenience is nice, but is your checking or savings account still the best fit? Let's bring in Atlanta-based financial advisor Barry Spencer. First of all, welcome to the show, Barry.
Hey, great to be with you. Good morning.
Good morning. And are you surprised at these numbers of people hanging on to their bank accounts for so long?
Not really, just because, think about all the things we tie into our bank account these days, auto payments, bill pay, and the like. It's just easier and more convenient to just leave it the way it is than think about moving banks or switching around. I kind of fall into those numbers of a long-standing checking account that the studies and the stats show for sure. But there are some things that people might be missing if they're not paying attention.
All right, you said you stayed with your bank. I've stayed with my bank. Why have you done it?
Well, again, it's just like for me, I have a lot of bill pay and auto pay already set up for a lot of the utilities and everything that comes around, and so. Like most, it's just easier to leave them there than it is to, switch banks and then change all those auto payments and all those connections, if you will, for all those household items. So, it is more convenient for sure, and that's a good reason. But I think at the same time, I think people are missing out because, those banks, those checking accounts, some of those savings accounts really don't pay very high interest. And if they do, the banks are in those kind of accounts like we're talking about, tend to be slow in raising the interest they pay, even as it's allowed for it to pay more. So, I think there's some interest-bearing savings and some investment savings that is probably better served outside of those for some.
Is there any other problems or dangers with keeping an account for so long, other than the missed out on the interest rates?
Well, other than the fact that, maybe there's some fees that maybe apply from time to time that you just don't pay attention to because you don't watch the bank. You don't watch your account that closely after all these years. And then you kind of don't pay attention if someone got a hold of the account, what is coming in and out. And so that kind of convenience, I'm sure it's fine, kind of sets in. And so you want to pay attention to those things and try to probably do a look and an evaluation. Maybe certainly every quarter wouldn't be a bad thing to just kind of review the statements and the ins and outs, make sure there's nothing going on in there, or any fees getting snuck in by any of the banks.
Guilty. I probably do not check that. And recently I did that, and I found a subscription I had that I thought I got rid of a long time ago, and it was still taking like $5 out of my account, which may sound like a small amount, but adds up over time. So you're saying we should be checking that probably every quarter?
Yeah, I think every quarter is good to do an analysis of that and kind of make sure. And sometimes the banks, if your balance goes to a certain low or something like that for a time, there's all these kind of nuances in banks and fees around those accounts. They can kind of slip a fee into there. But the good thing is, if you've been a customer for a long time with that bank account, I think they usually honor that kind of legacy, that you have with them, and they'll you ask them, they'll usually eradicate those fees or charge those back and cancel those fees.
So we have to use our power. All right. So if we got folks out there thinking now, Barry, if they're thinking about changing their account, what should they look for? Or changing their bank, what should they look for?
Thinking about this, there's banks, there's credit unions and custodians. So you think banks, credit unions and custodians, you're really looking for how can you earn some interest. So I think a lot of people maybe leave too much money in their checking account, and so that kind of overage than what they actually need to pay their bills month by month could be earning some interest outside of that account. And so either a high interest savings account outside of the bank, or even using a Schwab or a Fidelity and creating a custodial account there can offer a little bit wider range of interest-bearing type of accounts and fixed income assets that can help you earn a little bit of interest. And hey, pay for that $5 fee or that coffee every month or so that people are missing out on.
Yeah. All right. Barry Spencer, good tips right there. Good tips. Really appreciate you, Barry. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right. Back with my final take. When we return, you're watching The Take. Keep watching. Get outside, folks. Get outside if you can. We got the sunshine around the forecast area today with those temperatures in the 70s, well above our average for this time of year. In fact, my pick for the week will be Wednesday, 75 degrees under mostly sunny skies. Mighty nice. Rain comes back to us by Thursday. In fact, our clouds will increase during the day. Chance of rain late afternoon going into the evening. We'll catch a break on Friday, back to 73, and then could be some heavy thunderstorms around the forecast area as we head into Saturday and Sunday. We'll keep you updated on that, of course. Before we go, here's my final take. Apparently, America is becoming a bunch of homebodies, right? A recent study found data that Americans are spending more time at home and to a larger extent alone. The data suggests that time spent at home increased by an hour and a half each day, or about 10% from 2003 to 2024, which means that it trend sharply rose during the COVID pandemic and has not returned to pre-COVID levels, which is a sign that the pandemic accelerated a cultural shift already in progress. What's happening to us, folks? Yeah, these behaviors are proving that we're becoming less social and less active, which will lead to more health problems, especially mental health. We got to get out. We got to connect, but we got to go right now. Before we go, your moment is in. We'll see you tomorrow.